They weren't effective at all. And the thing with the face masks is that if the droplet story had been true, they would have made an impact. If the droplet story had been partially true, because there's also that possibility, isn't there, that, yeah, it's spread in both ways. So if it had been partially true, it still should have made some impact because you'd be reducing dosages or whatever. Although in actual fact, the majority of the virus is in the aerosols. And although the droplets are much bigger, and you'd think, well, that must mean they've got more virus in, that's not the case at all. And we know from just looking at the real-world evidence of what happened with mask mandates that there's no benefit. In fact, so when you compare a region that had mandates against a region that didn't, the one with the mandates almost invariably does a little bit worse. And that included when Austria and Germany used the N95 masks, which are designed to filter out aerosols. So it's not a mechanical filter because you can't really get a fabric you can breathe through that's got small enough holes to be a mechanical filter. But they charged them with electrostatic electricity. And so that it would filter out aerosols. But the thing is that if you're wearing an N95 mask and you're out and about, the likelihood is you're well. The people who are spreading disease are the ones who are sick. And so they're at home without a mask on, breathing out millions and millions of virus particles into the air, which then spreads to the region around where they are. And there's really nothing you can do about that happening. And when you look at the volume of virus that occurs in a wave, you sort of get a proper feel of how inevitable it is that people will be exposed. And then, of course, if you're wearing a mask, you're going to take it off or put it on. And that means you're touching it, and that's a really high risk of exposure when you're doing that. And the highest levels of virus in the hospital environment are in the room where people are taking the equipment on and off. So, that you can't help that if you're going to be wearing them. And then, obviously, you don't wear it all the time. You take it off, and at night when you're eating, when you're not wearing it all the time, so you're not protected all the time. And if it's in the air, you're going to get exposed. And then, there was also the theory that you can catch it through the eyes. So even if you were protected, you're not doing it properly. So, I think the evidence that the masks don't work is so thorough now. And there was a pretty strong evidence base before we went into any of this. And now, it's just got stronger.
When we started out, we weren't going down the masks route for a start.
That's
and
right.
Everyone had that idea that they weren't effective, and suddenly we were.
Yeah, and so we've got, the same people telling stories about how it's not good for, you end up fiddling with them, you end up catching it, there's no point doing it. Just, turning on a dime and saying the opposite, and then turning back again more recently to go back to what the evidence says. You think, well, these are people you can't trust then, aren't they? And yet they're still in positions of authority and giving out public health guidelines, and they need to be replaced because they've completely trashed their trust capital, which is what public health is all about. Public health relies entirely on people believing what they say, and it's important for a whole range of different things. And they've trashed it for everything based on this one virus. It was a crazy approach for them to have taken.